So we're talking a little bit about leaders now, and Erin, I know you have Ed Carney is the main man up there at your company. What do you think are the most important qualities that he needs to have to lead a successful organization?
Well, I would say he is the ultimate example. And so when it comes to things like transparency, when it comes to things like trust, communication, all of the things we've been talking about, he is the ultimate example. And whether he sees it or any of us see it, everybody is watching him and our partners and the leaders within our organizations, leaders within their teams, their mentors. And so they are the ultimate example. And they need to, we're all human, certainly we're not all perfect as we just talked about, but they need to exemplify and stand for the integrity that we present to our employees. They need to be the constant communicators. They need to be the transparency that we are, sending out to everybody. And Ed lives and speaks by that all the time. He's the first to say, I'm not perfect, I'm gonna make mistakes, I don't know everything, but he is also very dedicated to being that example, and he expects all of us to also be those examples, and bring the things that we have unique to each of us to the table, but make sure that you're always aware of the company and what we're trying to represent.
Any other comments on
Sure.
leadership qualities?
So we have Tim Kristen as our CEO, and he grew up through the firm, and he's been on the practice side, so he's walked a mile in all of our shoes. So he understands what it is we're trying to do, but he is truly a visionary. He's the one that was push Baker Tilly into the U.S. and really kind of push the brand that is international, but to get it here in the U.S. and be known, and really kind of expand the footprint that we would serve here in the U.S. And so that then filters down. I mean, he is visible, and he's vocal. A great presenter. He presented last year at the Leaders Institute and got rave reviews. That filters down to each of the managing partners within each of the offices, and then down to the different partners as well. So hopefully that mean. So it's about stewardship again, and running the business the way it should be run, doing the right things, and it's just you have to kind of do the things that are right for your people and for your clients every day, and that's what the leaders are trying to do with Tim pushing out into the vision part of the business.
In our case, I'll speak to Darren Jackson, our CEO. I think of two things when I think of Darren: a incredible listener. From the very early stages of him looking at joining Advance Auto, and the way he went and sought out folks that knew about the history of our company, who would have a perspective on the things that it needed to do to improve. An absolutely incredible listener. His just ability to concentrate, and now I see that present in the way he's opened himself up to our team members in the stores and the regional leadership in the stores. There's risk there because it can create such incredible volume, but his commitment to listening to those around him is that focused. And the other thing that I think of with Darren is he is a true learner, continuous learner. He is both willing to be selfless enough to say, I don't have all the answers. We will be able to adapt over time. And there's joy to be found in the adaptation. And he finds joy in learning. He speaks to that all the time with our team of, we're going to listen. We're centrally focused on what our customers are telling us. Of course, that's going to demand the change. So let's have some fun learning about what is necessary over time as we adapt the organization.
To just kind of add on to that is, we are also Beers and Cutler, and so Jim Beers was a lifelong learner, and he's still teaching today, even after retirement. And John Cutler was the management by wanderer. And so he wandered around, and that's how he managed. And so the two of them together were kind of a little bit of a yin and a yang. And Jim being the technician, John being the people person, and together they were able to build a very successful firm, which we're all products of. So you can have both, but it's important to have those different viewpoints and styles.
Right. How do you all see? I mean, in a smaller organization, we have about 30 on our staff, and we're constantly looking to how to make sure that those leadership qualities are being trained, and or that our managers are being trained on those leadership qualities, and not that they need to be great technicians at their field, but also be developed as leaders. I'm sure it's probably 100 times harder in a big organization, but it's still probably a similar issue. How do you ensure that the philosophy, the leadership philosophy, goes from your CEO into really all levels of management? Do you do something specific?
I would say that it's an informal and a formal process, and I think it takes both parts in order to create successful employees and to keep those competencies and those skills flowing through. We are actually very proud of our part of our culture in that our employees come on board and they go through a new hire orientation process and all those things, but then they are put right on the client site. And for some, they would say, wow, that's pretty brave. Others say, that works out well. For us, it works very well, and employees are exposed to our clients. They're exposed to the work. They're exposed to everything that's involved with the engagement they're working on from the beginning. And so because of that, they learn certain skills and competencies very quickly and on the job. Now, certainly, people make mistakes as well. And we are comfortable with that, and we feel our management is able to deal with those things. Of course, we also have the formal training programs. We have leadership training and a variety of other training programs that we put on in-house by our own employees, and then we bring in organizations like Franklin Covey to also do training. So it's really a good mix of that. Of that informal and formal.
Does Ed do specific training, maybe in that internal training?
He actually, when his schedule allows, he actually speaks and involves himself in some way in every in-house training we offer. So whether it's a 5 minutes of, hey, here's why we're offering this training, or whether it's him participating for an hour or whatever that might be, it's one of his goals to attend every training that he is able to attend. And so that, I think, in itself makes a statement.
Absolutely.
Right.
That helps with consistency as well, so you're not getting a filtered message. I think it's exactly what Erin said, but I think it's also just time and space, and taking an active role in teaching and helping people up through the ranks and leading by example. And so you just have to continue to do it, press it down to your people, and impress upon them how important it is to kind of adopt the really philosophy and the organization's culture and making it their own as well. And for the people that support them, the same. And so you do it through action, you do it through repetition, you do it through observation. We have, formal training programs through Baker Tilly University and a Pathways program, which we can talk about. But it's just, continued repetition.
And it's a priority, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
I completely agree, and I think at the starting point, an organization has to know who it is, and we've talked a ton about our values. In our case, forming the entire sort of social system for how the team member life cycle, an HR professional, you might call it, so that your social system is rooted in this is who we choose to be as an organization, and you're invited to join and share in the same construct, and that means you're going to select talent based off of a set of norms that are, in our case, aligned to our values. You're going to performance manage and do your talent management structure aligned to the same set of values. You're going to train in cases to the things that are most important about your value system. And you'll align your compensation systems ultimately around those things. So I think that is where we're really trying, and we're far from perfect, but we're trying to align everything in the social network around that same consistent set of standards, in our case, our values. That's where you really start to see the dividends, is when the constant reinforcement, I think, with your teams of, wow, everything I touch seems to be telling me the same message about what is expected. And we're pretty deliberate about the invitation to join. We would be bold enough to say our culture is not for everyone. Some folks may not like the softness of a values-based culture, and that's okay. We wouldn't begrudge people for saying, you know what, I prefer the kind of harder stuff, something that's a little more fully objective. In our case, values are the center of it all.
So let me add on to Derek. In the merger transaction, and if you go through a similar transaction, you're going to have people that need to leave. Unfortunately, you know, some infrastructure, some administration functions go away. So that's one of the certain downsides to doing something like that. A lot of people that had supported us needed to be kind of let go. And so that was very difficult. And then you have this element of people that really just believed in being in DC, being the local firm, and they couldn't kind of get on board with the new, what are we going to be? And so those people then leave the train, so to speak, on their own volition. And so now you have a different objective, you have a different philosophy, not major, but a little bit different. So you find the people that want to be on board with that new philosophy and objective. So, you know, that all just takes some time, and that's all worked itself out. And I'm looking at Greg because he's going to be going through some of that stuff, if not already, as they continue to work through a merger. But as your firms evaluate that, you cannot discount the impact that it has on your people and you personally.
We hear a lot, and this is a small organization perspective here, is how can I grow? You know, I want growth in an organization. And you know, because we're small, I think we feel we have a lot of growth opportunity, and we have a lot of examples of folks who have taken advantage of it. But we still struggle with that. I'm curious to hear how you all answer that question of what's my growth opportunity here? Is it more traditional model, or do you have something different?
Speaking to individual growth.
Right.
Yeah. We spend a lot of time focused on personal aspiration. And again, we have a structure, obviously. We have to run the company, but we're spending more and more time focused on learning people's aspirations, even on the front end. I get a few quizzical looks. I ask commonly a question, I interview a lot, as you can imagine, about joy. I ask folks during the interview process, tell me what brings you joy. And sometimes folks balk at it a little bit. Who are you? What are you, are you for real? But ultimately, that's what I'm trying to get to, and the folks that I interview is understand their joy proposition. I talk a lot about future focus. We, of course, do a skills inventory to figure out if the person's going to be qualified, but we are really working hard to pivot off of what the joy proposition will be of an individual. And some folks, it is a wonderful thing for them to arrive at a certain place as a parts pro in our environment, or as a general manager in a store, and say to themselves, I have found my joy spot. This is what I want to do. I love this job. And far be it from us then to say, we're going to then try and morph you into something else that doesn't fit. However, we have to recognize that many of our talented folks want that next opportunity, or are going to want to diversify and try other things. So we really, pivoting off the individual aspiration, I think, is incredibly important for us.